we hear a lot now from the patriot community, or whatever you want to call it, that talks about, especially when people want to defend themselves and they bring the Constitution in the courtroom, and we hear time and time again that the judges get like apoplectic and said, don't bring that in here.
Right.
Is that a fact?
Yeah, it's a fact. And the reason is because they're all dealing in private law. And the Constitution is really not made for man, the common man. It's made for the law merchants operating as government. In other words, the Constitution is a legal document. There's no doubt about that. It's been written in the journals as a legal document, and it is couched in legal terms. And that's where a lot of people fall apart when it comes to terms and words, because a term is not a word. A term is a word that has been massaged by the legislative body to mean what it wants it to mean and not what the dictionary says it means.
Okay. All right. And now moving into the parameters of what we did want to address. And as we said before, we're talking about the Templars of the Crown, but the Crown means many things to many people. So which crown are we talking about? Okay,
that's true. Now, the governmental and the judicial systems within the United States, both federal and state, is owned by the Crown now, which is a private foreign power. So before jumping to conclusions like a lot of people do, the Queen of England and the royal families and so on and so forth, that's what they think the Crown when you talk about the Crown. Okay?
Okay.
It's really hard to grasp for a lot of people that are first exposed to this. But after you get involved in doing your own research and finally finding out what's happening, it starts to come into a big jigsaw puzzle, and you got one little piece of the puzzle. Where do you put it? In the center, on the edges, in the corners? Where? You don't know where. And this is why it's got to take a lot of dedication to do the research, which we've done, to come up to this particular point. Now, on the ATG Press site, James Montgomery is another friend and a really good researcher, and he has even more research into this British Crown and whatnot than I had.
Let me hold you right there for a second, my could I, man. I'm on the ATGpress.com site. So other people who are listening may be doing the same thing I'm doing. How could I ask Montgomery? I mean, I know they have the Informer down there, and we can read your stuff.
Okay, it's the next one, Knowledge is Freedom.
Okay.
Yeah, that's Montgomery's site.
I got it. There it says, Knowledge is Freedom, James Montgomery. Great.
Right. And so a lot of people would be really chewing up Montgomery when he put this out, especially attorneys, because there is no lawyers in this country. There's only attorneys. And, of course, they're going to defend no, and Beecraft come out with we ain't Brits argument, because right off the bat, they're thinking the royal families and the king owns us. Well, that's not true. The Crown was known as the Templar Church, and they're either the Crown Temple, the Crown Templar. They're all synonymous. And the church was built by the Knights Templar in two parts, the round and the chancel. And the round was consecrated in 1185. And it was modeled after the Church of the Holy Sculpture in Jerusalem.
And what was the other one you said? The chancel?
Yeah, Chancel.
Okay.
And that was built in 1240. And they have middle and inner temples. And it's located in in London. And it's it houses the Crown offices of the Crown. Mainly, the church was outside any canonical jurisdiction of the temples, and the master of the temple is appointed and takes place by a patent without induction or institution. Now, all the licensed bar attorneys owe their allegiance to this Crown Temple, but they don't realize it. You know, they're dumbed down too. So there's certain, when you get up into the Supreme Court and the appellate courts, yeah, okay, these judges know it because they were attorneys.
Right.
Probably attorneys who couldn't make it on the outside, so they became a judge. You know, it's like
ooh, ouch.
Yeah, that's about what it is.
All right.
It's sort of like, for a period of time I taught auto mechanics. And it would always say, well, a teacher of mechanics is one that couldn't make it on the outside as a mechanic. So he went into teaching.
Right.
Sometimes that's not always the case, because I was doing mechanical work for like 40 years, and then I decided, well, I'd impart some of my stuff and teach adult classes, not kids, but I'd teach adult class at night school, and I did that for 10 years. And I would run into that. But now, the Bar Association are all signatories to this franchise, to the International Bar Association, and it's in the Inns of Court, INNS, Inns of Court at the Crown Temple. Now, what is interesting is all the bar associations, American Bar, the Florida Bar, the California Bar, are all franchises to the Crown. All right? So right now, you know the Crown isn't the king. And the Inns of Court, there's 4 Inns of Court in the Crown Temple, use the banking and the judicial system in the City of London. Now, the City of London is just like Washington, D.C. It's not part of England. Just like Washington, D.C. is not actually part of the 50 states.
All right, let me hold you right there. So therefore, you can speak about London, and that's not a problem. That's a city that's in England. But you talk about the City of London, and you're really talking about an entity unto itself, like the District of Columbia.
Exactly.
And can we also extrapolate and say the reason why the District of Columbia was set up as it was and not as a state was to reflect exactly what took place with the City of London?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. So now, what is interesting is when I was doing some research here in the state in North Carolina, okay, we were doing some research down in the archives, and after we got done in the archives, we went over into the Secretary of State's office, and we were looking up particular portions in there of what we were going through over in the in the archives. And we decided that we would try to find out if there was anything to what we found in the archives and what we had researched, or I had researched, in Montgomery on the Crown Temple, on the Inns of Court. Well, it just so happened we went over there, and we got it from the tax analyst in the UCC section. And we pulled up the American Inns of Court Foundation in Durham, North Carolina, and they give the address and the telephone number, and this particular one was contributions are deductible, and it was an association, and they give the classification and the filing status, and it was non-profit. We found another one in Greensboro, North Carolina, the American Inns of Court Foundation, and it too was non-profit. But then we got into the North Carolina Bar Association, and it's a business league,